Well, before we get into this new video about MindMed, the news on it is a couple days late, but you'll have to forgive me. It's been a crazy week. The one thing that I have to say is it looks like we're starting to see a bottom. Now, what you're looking at on the screen is the ETF VU. It is an index that covers the entire stock market. And this is the last 5 trading days. So we're only into the second day of this week, and you're looking at on the back half of this chart the last 3 days. So it seems to have had a bottom on Thursday and is trading relatively flat now. And we'll look at the SPY, which is the sister index, which trades the same um, equities underneath, and it's been trading relatively flat for the last 5 trading days. So, in my opinion, could this be a bottom? Possibly, but it's looking like we found some current levels that we can bounce off of. And as always, it looks like things are starting to stabilize, just like in 2008 and just like in 99, 2000, when we had the tech bubble and we had the financial crash. The rebounds are always much faster than the initial crisis. The underlying crisis will continue, but life goes on. So it's looking like things are starting to get back to the green. We are no longer at number one on the fear and index, and we're starting to see some gainers. But let's get into the MindMed news. Leading psychedelic pharmaceutical company MindMed forms new board committee to evaluate acquisitions and scientific collaborations. As stated pre-IPO, that their intent is to work with their ibogaine derivative and their LSD trials for ADHD in adults. Um, but the intent is to acquire and expand via, you know, purchases of other companies. Whether that will be successful is yet to be seen, but usually it does work quite well. If you look at the big boys like Johnson and Johnson, Bristol Myers Squibb, Bayer, all of them. But getting into it, Mind Medicine has formed a technology evaluation, acquisition, and scientific integrity board committee to identify and expand on companies' clinical trial pipeline and IP portfolio of psychedelics. The committee will be advised by Johns Hopkins Professor of Psychiatry and Behavioral Sciences Matthew Johnson, PhD. Professor Johnson is a renowned expert on psychedelics and addiction, and he will act as both a senior advisor to the newly formed committee and will also join the company's existing scientific advisory board. So basically, he's going to be the guide as MindMed looks to acquire companies at a lower valuation that they can afford to spend their equity on. He's going to be the guide in helping them choose which companies will be beneficial to them and which won't. And the thing about this is the companies that have definitive intellectual properties that could be turned into medicines but don't have the funding, this will help them by being acquired into the MindMed portfolio to not only fund their research but push for clinical trials, in their upcoming mergers and acquisitions, thus padding MindMed's portfolio with more than just 2 drugs. Continuing on, we feel it is most important to establish a world-class team of experts to advise on scientific merit and medical capabilities for our future acquisitions and pipeline, said MindMed founder and co-CEO J.R. Rand. Professor Johnson and Dr. Halpern will be integral advisors to us as we evaluate new opportunities and build the most compelling clinical trial pipeline for psychedelics. Does go on, but that is pretty much the gist of the article, and then it goes on to explain the back history. So I'll just touch on Professor Matthew Johnson and Miri Halperin. I can't even. I'm gonna butcher that, so I'm not even gonna try. We'll just call her Mary. Matthew, PhD Johnson at Johns Hopkins, is an expert on psychedelics, other drugs, and addiction. And Miri is a senior pharmaceutical and biomedical executive with over 30 years of strategic and operational leadership in biopharmaceuticals. So, there you have it, guys. It's just a nice little way of saying we got more drugs coming in our pipeline if mergers and acquisitions go through. But stay vigilant through these turbulent times, and as always, peace.